Alright, put the steel toes on. Ty's tennis shoes were supposed to be in the sun drying. This picnic table is not where it normally is. And all of this is not where it's supposed to be. The reason for that is the dead aspen is gone. And this was a very nasty one. This tree has been dead for a while, and our house is right here. Electric lines are right here. Not very far. And it was leaning right over these lines, and then at the top of it, it had some really big, dead, hollowed out branches that were over the house and over this. So it was a messy one. I think this might be the first time that, let me get out of that shadow there. I think this is the first time that a Morgan, in my family at least, has ever had to hire someone to take down a tree for them. The only time I know of my dad, and again, maybe I'm wrong, but the only time I know of my dad ever getting help was whenever he had Pete, I think his name is, Nuts319, I want to say is his YouTube channel, Nuts319. Right after this clip, I'm going to check that out, but I believe it's Nuts319, and his name's Pete, came up and helped my dad with one of those real big oak trees. And it was a nasty one, it was leaning a lot, and it was my dad wasn't comfortable with that one, so I think that was the only time my dad ever got help. Again, I might be wrong, but having my dad not far from here, you know, you'd think I probably would never need to hire anyone either. And I probably could have got away with it on this one, but we decided against it, and that's because of the house and the electric lines. Had we had rope, or enough rope, we probably could have got a couple of us pulling it, and that was what we were considering, but we didn't have the rope, and we didn't risk it. So we decided to explore other options and hire an arborist. So this was the tree. And there's this. I don't know if anyone knows what this is. I'm going to try and get it out now. Maybe I can. Yeah, probably now that that's cut. But we'll get it out somehow. But if anyone has any idea what this here is, I'd love to know. It's obviously been there a really long time, and I could never figure it out. But this aspen, it's some sort of aspen, like a quaking aspen. It's a very ugly one. And when this thing hit, about 1,000 hickory nuts came crashing down with it. So now it's time to clean up. But first I want to tell you why we hired someone. I kind of already mentioned why we hired someone, and that was because we lacked the rope, and there was a lot of things that could have went wrong. With those limbs being that dead, so we had just the other day a pretty big limb fall, and the inside of it was completely hollowed out. So we didn't know what we were dealing with at the top of this tree. And my dad, he came and looked at it, and we considered, you know, maybe trying to pull it. We considered trying to push it with the excavator. All of it was just going to be messy, and it was one of those things, you didn't have a good feeling about it. So we didn't go with it because we didn't want anything bad to happen. And we ended up calling, my dad called one company he knew of, and then we also called the company that, I'm sure you all watch Outdoors with the Morgans. The company that did the trees across the street from my dad, when he got all those oak trees, we called them. So I talked to him. His name is Jordan Miller, and his company's Wild Miller Tree Service, I believe is what it is. Wild Miller Tree Service. And anyways, I actually went to high school with him, funny enough. So, yeah, he was a little bit older than me, but we called them, and I called them, and he came here on Labor Day, day off. He came out and looked at it all, and, you know, gave me a great deal. And it wasn't even that he cut me a deal or anything. You know, he gave me a good price, I should say. So he didn't give me a deal. He gave me what the price was, and it was so reasonable for this tree, him being fully insured and being an arborist, that's something I really appreciated too. You know, there's plenty of people who can take down trees, but being an arborist, a certified ISA arborist, being able to, I just respect that even more, you know, because they are not just about taking down trees, you know, they're willing to help save trees, identify problems, you know, they can use fungicides, insecticides, preventatives like that. So yeah, I think that's really cool. And they know what's going on in the tree and what they're working with. And so I just felt good doing it. And especially, like I said, for the price, it was totally worth every penny, considering that there's so many things that could have went wrong with this. And so I was really happy with the service. They came out, and there was actually another kid I went to high school with that works for him. It was good to see him and see you know, how much they love the outdoors, that they do it every day. So it's really cool to see others that have that same passion of being outside and that are really talented, and you know, they're my age. So it was cool. They did exactly like we talked about, and they pulled this down. They had two guys down here while he cut it down up there, and they pulled, and real smooth. And as soon as this thing hit is when it just exploded. These branches and everything. It was just a messy tree. So that's why we hired someone and who we hired. And while he was here on Labor Day looking at the tree, I wanted to ask him about two other trees that might just save us a lot of time. And he ended up taking those down too, because with taking down 3 trees, it was a great rate, great price. They were here for 40 minutes. Probably, I should say they were working 40 minutes, talked for a little bit. And then they also took down this dead Norway spruce and this dead Norway spruce. So there were 2 trees here, and these things are messy, but it's good to just get them taken down, and now the cleanup starts. They do cleanup, they do stump grinding, they do all of that, but that was just a little bit more. I don't even know how much that costs, but having the tools we have, having the saws, the tractors, grapples, it just made more sense for me to do the cleanup and save some money there as I'm tripping over these branches. But yeah, so this one came from here. Look at that. Yeah, so there was 2 on this one. You can see here. And then there's that one. So they're ugly, but it's nice to get them out. The rest of these Norways are alive for now. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. And like I said, I mean, they do stump grinding. They do, you know, they'll grind up the whole trees. They'll remove the trees. They can get rid of them. They can treat them, do preventatives. Yeah, I had a good talk with him about the ash trees, and you know, asked what he thought, and he said it sounds like right now, you know, there's really no issues with the ash trees in the area. And that's what I had wondered, because on the property we had found, or I've been finding, you know, well over 100 ash trees that are coming back. And I was curious on, you know, should we be treating them now? And he thinks what's happening is just those ash borers are just moving out west. He said they're in Idaho right now, and he thinks that they're just heading to the west coast. Then he's not sure what will happen. Will they maybe then just come back through and get any new growth? We'll see. But for right now, he thinks we're in the clear, because of, you know, the different customers he has, the clients he has. He hasn't heard of any ash trees getting wiped out recently. So, I mean, at least in our area, it sounds like we're in the clear. But, I mean, that could all change in the future. So, let's hope not. So, this whole thing was pretty eye-opening. And what I mean by that is that growing up, my dad never hired out anything like this. And that's because he knew how to do all of this, and he never ran into anything, I guess, like this. Or I think there's been times he kind of did something, maybe looking back, he was like, I don't know how I survived that. Or maybe, you know, he's talked about before when he was learning things, there was stuff where he looked back on and was like, I'd never do that again. and just as he's become older, you know, and have more experience. But yeah, so they never hired anything like this out, and I think I always thought it can be really expensive. Someone just down the road the other day had a crew out here, and they have one of those big spider kind of things, it's called like Arbor Pro, and that was the Arbor Pro 72. I just read it on the actual spider, so it's like this claw type thing that'll crawl out there. It moves pretty slow, but it'll crawl out and get in anywhere, and it has like a crane, and the person, you know, is sitting in there, and you can control the whole thing, and you can go up and just take down any section of the tree that way. It's a really sweet thing, but it is not cheap. And that was the other company that I called, and he came out and looked at it, and they were pretty backed up, and it would have been a while. And this was today's Thursday. I called him over the weekend, and Jordan came out Monday. Looked at it on Labor Day, said he'd be here Thursday. It was 3 days, and took it down, and yeah, really fast. But anyways, I'm getting off track. So that other guy, he came and looked at it, and he said it would have been, you know, a couple weeks. Plus, he said we would only take that down, that first aspen, he said we'd take that down with that spider. And from what I read online, the average cost of those is, you know, from $2,000 up to like $4,000. It all depends on hourly, but just getting that thing in here, getting it up there, that alone, they have a lot of expense in it already. There's no way that was going to be within the budget. And we had these guys come, Wild Miller Tree Service, very professional, and really happy with the whole thing. And so that's what I'm trying to say, is what was so eye-opening is that you can find someone to do a job like this for a good price. He's fully insured. He is a certified ISA arborist, and yeah, they have all the gear. This was nothing. They had all these down in 40 minutes. There was 3 of them. One guy was his first day, so he was learning. So I mean, you really have 2 veteran guys. And yeah, the other thing too, I feel like since COVID, customer service has kind of disappeared. At least that's what it seemed like to me. I've had plenty of experiences working with companies, or, you know, trying to hire something, and it just turns into be a mess, where it just seems like it's more work than it's worth. And I immediately regret even calling that company, or I immediately regret even considering hiring someone, just because of it just seems more of a sometimes these companies and employees make it seem like you're more of an inconvenience, and in reality, I mean, I'm your customer and I don't expect any special treatment, but wow, sometimes there's so many other things I'd rather do than have to make a phone call now to get someone to come and look at something, because it just turns into you know, they don't show up, they cancel, you know, get pushed back, waiting on something, the whole supply chain excuse, you know, we hear it all, and it's been frustrating. So, but this was the best experience I've had in a while with a company. They did exactly what they said they do. He said, yeah, I'll be there Monday. He came Monday. He told me, he said, call me in the morning, because we were going to be doing some running, and he said, let me know. So I told him, hey, we'll be here at this time, you know, and he was there that exact time. Made the plans, said he'd be here Thursday. They came Thursday. They did exactly what they said. And then he called me too. They finished their first job earlier. He said, can we come by now? And it worked out just fine. They came and they did what they said, and yeah. And then the other thing, them being fully insured, is definitely something you want to look for, because there's a lot that could have went wrong. And yeah, so maybe you've done this before. This is something I've never done before, and I never even considered doing, especially having my dad down the road with his equipment. Just seemed like something I'd never have to do until now. And totally worth the price, all of it. So I recommend it if you're ever, especially if, you know, you're thinking about safety. If there's ever anything that you're not sure on, hire it out, or at least get someone's eyes on it, because you do not want to, a lot of things can go wrong with this stuff. So yeah, I'm really happy with the whole thing. It was a good experience, and I've been talking for far too long, so now it's time to get cleaning up. I think the plan is I'm going to start, I know everyone's always telling us we got to save all the wood, and yet that aspen's all junk. There's no good wood in that. It's rotted. These Norways, this one here is junk too. But I'm gonna first start getting rid of a lot of these branches, try and get some organization, and then my dad later will be bringing the grapple down, I think, and will give me a hand in moving some of this out of the way. They were totally willing to start cutting it up, but I told them don't worry about it because we have the tools. And yeah, I didn't pay for that service either, you know. I just paid for it. All I said is just get it on the ground and we'll take care of it. So yeah, but now it's time to clean up. All right, got the chaps on, the helmet, and the saw is all filled up. Yeah, we're ready to go. Chickens are out here trying to have a good time. And if you had missed the video the other day, my chain had popped off. I was cutting a whole bunch of that invasive autumn olive, honeysuckle, and privet. And when you're getting all this, you know, thousands of little limbs and stuff, it's easy, something to get caught in there, and it did, and it popped right off. But the saw I'm using here, let me turn the camera around. Too special, MS271, it's the Farm Boss. Yeah, works great for me, and you know, if I ever need anything bigger, you guys know where I can go. I know a guy. So let's get started on this thing so we can use our driveway again. This has happened to me a lot, especially with these dead spruce trees. I get started on it and I'm looking at it, and you know, there's thousands of branches, and I start thinking to myself like, oh, I know there's a lot of branches, but you know what, I'm gonna make it real clean this time, you know. And I know my dad can help me out later. I just don't know what time he'll be able to come over. I haven't talked to him recently, and he's busy at their place right now. So anyways, none of that matters. I start thinking like, all right, instead of just cutting this one tree up into say 3 sections and having the grapple take it, I think I'll just start ripping through it. You know, I'll just start trimming the branches. I'll cut all the branches off, and then I think I'll get it nice, neat, organized, and you know, it'll be great, and I'll be able to have this whole tree cleaned up by hand, because I like working sometimes with my hands, you know, just manual labor feels good. So I get this whole thing, you know, I get this 3-thought process in my head like, oh, just wipe out those 1,000 branches. I'll cut it up into sections. I'll carry it all, and it'll be real clean. Then you start ripping through it and you realize how many branches there are. And the reason I'm taking all the branches, if you didn't understand that, is because I'm planning to carry a lot of this by hand. That's when I'm feeling extra optimistic. At the start, I'm thinking like, yeah, it'll be no problem, you know. I'll start ripping through it. And it's easier to carry these when there's no, because these branches are sharp, you know, especially they're dead. So they've, yeah, they're just really prickly. They're sharp. And this is a small one, but man, they don't feel good, especially the thicker ones. So anyways, I start thinking, yeah, it'll be no problem. And then, you know, a little bit goes by and I'm like, this is terrible. I need to grapple. But here's where we're at right now. And so you can kind of see when I reach that point of, all right, these branches are a pain. Just cut the tree into sections. So here I was feeling good. You can tell there's pretty much all these branches are on the ground. I was feeling great. I was even cutting them into sections and thinking, oh, I'll load up the wagon and it'll be perfect. And then towards the end, I left this section because I was like, all right, this is taking too long. And I got 3 trees to clean up. And then down here, this one, I just cut it into 3 sections because, well, down here, this was all, those were stuck together already, but they're separated now. But yeah, so I just cut this into a few sections. And I'm definitely going to do the same thing as I move on to the other trees, because I started off feeling really optimistic, like, oh, I'll just rip through it, no problem. And then I start looking at these branches thinking how long that's going to take to pick all these up from 3 trees, and I decided against it. So now we're back to cutting this into sections. But what I think I am going to do right now is work on moving this one, and maybe even just clearing the driveway enough to where we can get the cars through here, and I might even get the truck in here and maybe load it up with branches. I don't know yet, but we'll see. And what we got going on here, while I'm doing all this, Kate's over here working on the play set. She's on the other side of this tree working on that. There she is. And the girls are hanging out wondering what's going on, and the kids are napping. Well, I took a break. Ty just woke up, and we're not done. But what do you think?
Let's go.
Wow, look at this.
Let's go.
How does it go? Oh, you missed it. There you go. You can step right on that. Okay, we'll figure it out.
Let's go.
Oh, I'm gonna give Kate a hand, and we'll work on this for a little bit, and then we'll get that all cleaned up. I got the tree on the driveway all cut up and ready to move. So he fits through there. All right, this one right here, that was on the driveway right here, and in here is the best log, and even this one too, are not nearly as rotted as the other ones. I'm definitely going to save all of this for firewood for maple syrup. So I was cutting these into rounds, and I got more to cut, but Ty came out and I was giving Kate a hand. But yeah, I'm going to be saving all these. This stuff here, probably not. It's I don't know. We'll see. Maybe, but I mean, either way, it's not like I'm burning it right now. I'm just going to be putting it in a pile. Definitely going to be burning the branches. But yeah, so for right now, all of this is going to be going in a pile. The messier stuff will probably just go into a big pile somewhere along the, the border of the yard and the woods. I already have one good brush pile, so that's probably where that'll go. Things like this, I'll make a new pile, and I'll use all of this for maple syrup. And in here, and this, and pretty much all of this tree is pretty good too. Just really dead, but yeah, I'll use that for burning for my boiling for maple syrup. He's with me right now. Just woke up from her nap. It wouldn't be a video without some native plants. So I'm going to talk about some of these ones right here off of the driveway. I mean, you got your native cattails, the corn dogs. This fern in here is sensitive fern. The orange flowers, jewelweed. Purple flowers, ironweed. White looking flower in the back is fireweed. Right here is Kate, Ty, and Jake. Kate, the driveway will be clear by the time you're back. I hope. Well, are you taking these two? I mean, if you want that driveway clear. Alright guys, I never finished this video the other day. I did get the one cleaned up off the driveway. And the only thing I have left down here now is the, pretty much the bottom half of that. That tree had gone up to here. And I got that all cleaned up. I just have that bottom half now. Really not that much, but the reason it took so much time is because there was a lot of cleaning to do, and with all those branches, so I was taking the branches off and then cleaning it up that way. And I'm going to use the logs for maple syrup this winter. So took some time, still not done, but we're now working over here, and I wanted to finish this over here. So I wanted to show you how hollow this aspen is. So I started cutting this stuff up. So you can see even up into this piece, right? You see the middle's starting to get a little hollow. You see it gets bigger, bigger through here. This one, there's millions of ants on this thing. And check this piece out. So I can, there's my hand there. That thing is no good. And starting here too. Yeah. We're finished getting this cut up, and then I'll load it all in the truck and put it somewhere. I'll still burn this stuff. I mean, it's rotten, but it'll burn. I don't need a pretty fire. I just need a fire. Yeah, these are look like fire ants. It's hard to tell with this camera, but man, there's thousands and thousands. Alright guys, that's a wrap. Got everything cut up. It did not take me that long. I just came back outside. I was pretty much done. I had about 5-10 minutes left to work. And we went inside, had dinner, showered the kids and stuff like that. So I just now got back out here to finally finish cutting it all up. Now that that part's done, it's getting dark as you can tell, but I can still load the truck in the dark. Not a big deal. But yeah, and I think I said it before, but I'm using the Farm Boss from Steel. It's MS271 for my chainsaw. There she is. Nothing too special. Pretty, good saw, but it's, nothing like the ones my dad runs. I don't need anything like that though. It works for what I'm doing here. And then other gear that I use, just because I think because I grew up with my dad. And what I mean by that is, my dad taught me a lot of things on maintaining property and stuff like that. I think that the biggest life lesson that my dad taught me, not even a life lesson, but the biggest lesson my dad taught me, I don't know if that's right, but something that I remember very well, maybe that's how I should phrase it. One of the things I remember most is never use gasoline to start a fire. He taught me that from when I was young, because we always had brush fires, we were always burning stuff. And I remember, hearing stories at school from kids at school like, oh, I had this huge fire and I threw gas on it and stuff like that. You hear things little kids talk about. And I remember being like the only kid in first grade telling them, you shouldn't use gas, use diesel or kerosene, something like that, Got a little off topic, but the reason I even brought that up is my dad always, chainsaw safety, always have to be safe with these. And because of that, I use chaps. These are from Steel. These are what I use because I don't want to take a chainsaw to the leg. And, there's plenty of people out there that don't use them, but totally worth the investment. I think these were like $100, and I got them a few years ago. And yeah, they're going to last forever unless you're putting a chainsaw through it. But very important to have. Some people might think that they're a professional, they'll need it, but the professionals I know wear them. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's just silly to not use them. And yeah, I'm not a professional, but I'm going to use them because I'm not going to risk it. Because I think when it really hit me was watching my dad test those chaps a while ago. This was a few years ago, and they were testing some chainsaw chaps with he was with Nick from Steel, who's been in a couple of videos, one of his contacts at Steel, and they tested that out. And seeing that, oh man, just the thought of your leg being in there, I don't want any part of that. But anyways, guys, I'm rambling. So yeah, I use the Steel chaps. I use the Steel MS271, and I use a Steel helmet with a face mask, and earmuffs on it, ear protection, not muffs, ear protection. Anyways, guys, that's it. That's what I use. I got these trees all cut now. Now I just need to clean up this aspen, and I will be using the wood this winter for maple syrup. Yeah. Assuming it's dry, it's definitely dead. I'm gonna be splitting it up soon, and then I'll be using it for syrup. and I think it should burn just fine. But that's all we got on today's video. It took a few days because we've been out of town. We were in Deep Creek, Maryland for a couple days. We had Kennywood, which you saw that video by now. We had a lot going on, so they cut the trees down, and the day of, I got the one off the driveway, and that was it. I haven't had much time, so my parents were also gone for a few days, so I've been at their house for the last few days. So yeah, now that everything's back on schedule, we'll be putting out more videos. This past week was extremely busy. But thanks for watching, thanks for all the support, and we'll see you guys in the next video.